We'll call the meeting to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please remain standing for a moment in memory of Joe Bruno, former chairman of the Select Board and also of the Castleton Planning Commission. Thank you. First item is the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, additions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, Bob. Next item is approval of the minutes, 10/9/2023. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Corrections?
I wasn't here, but I have a question.
Sure.
Under approval of the agenda, it went from the motion carried 3-0. Was it Bob wasn't in yet? Because Bob came by Zoom?
That could be.
Because everything else is 4-0 except for that one thing.
That could be.
It was. It was.
Anything else, Mary Lynn?
No,
Dick?
I had nothing else.
Joe?
Yeah, I guess on the last page, the second paragraph starts, J. Mark stated the plaque being returned to the property on South Street by an owner's request. I think we ought to make a sentence out of that. Well, I guess it is a sentence. J. Mark, I would, instead of stated the, I would suggest brought up the matter of a plaque being returned to the property on South Street at the owner's request and make owners possessive. That's it.
Okay. Bob, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes with the corrections indicate by saying aye.
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 I abstained because I wasn't here.
Mary Lee abstains, she wasn't here. Okay, moving on. Citizens' comment. Hold up, time out, boys, just a second. Citizens' comments and/or concerns, issues not on the agenda. Who wants to be first? Mark?
I'm going to stand up because I can't see Mrs. Harris. I don't want to be disrespectful.
The microphones are above, that's why, Mark. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
You're okay.
So I apologize for coming in under citizens' requests. In a perfect world, this would have been on the agenda, but my timing and circumstances didn't work out, but you'll see that as I get along. Like all of you, over the past couple of years, I've had a lot of conversations with people in the community about the village school, and I think that everyone agrees in a perfect world, it would be wonderful if we could keep that in the community. We've seen people use it for pickleball, yoga, walking groups, kids' summer camp last year. And if that could be expanded to things like adult volleyball, basketball. When my kids were younger, we used to have family broom hockey days, crafts, who knows? It's only limited by our imagination. But I think, you know, in my vision, when I look at the social disintegration that we've seen in our community all across the country in the last 20 years, particularly after COVID, it would be wonderful if people went there for one particular interest, say basketball, and they met other people and became more engaged in the community. Maybe that's a pipe dream, but you know, I think that that's a possibility, that people would become more engaged and we wouldn't have the situation we have today where you have offices in the town that nobody runs for. It didn't used to be like that. Maybe that's a pipe dream. And of course, the other side of it is maybe that's going to cost a tremendous amount of money. So we have some people in the community that have a clear vision for what that school could be, and it's a really great vision, and other people that say, that's an albatross, that's gonna cost millions. And we don't know who's right because everybody's speculating. So I had an opportunity to spend some time with my friend Devin Neary this weekend from Regional Planning Commission. And he always, he's wise beyond his years, and he always has a good outlook on everything. And I asked him what he thought. And he said, well, what does the feasibility study say? I said, well, I don't think there's been one. He goes, well, that's the obvious starting point. You have to have an independent organization that doesn't have a dog in that fight and do a study, and the numbers are what they are. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but you don't know right now. And the good news is there's community planning grants that are available right now. The bad news is they're due November 1st. So that's why I'm coming to you tonight under citizens' requests and not on the agenda, because I just found this out yesterday. So I spoke with Mike today, and he confirmed that there were community grants available. I had spoken to Mary Droege, and she said that she was willing and able to write the grant. I think that she has a real attention to accuracy and a sense of time. Mike thought that the grant process really wasn't that complicated and that he would be able to do it. I think he was in communication with regional planning today, and he has some more information than I do. I know that there's a match that's necessary, and of course, the most important thing that's necessary is it has to have the blessing of this board. So I just thought that in the interest of everyone in the community, this seemed like the logical step. And when a feasibility study is done, it's either gonna look like the best thing that ever happened to our town, this is doable. Maybe they'll say, oh yeah, Keene, New Hampshire had a similar situation and it worked out really well. Or they're gonna say, this is gonna cost millions of dollars and the upkeep is gonna be hundreds of thousands a year and you'll never raise more than 500 a year. But right now we don't know, and I think this is a really cost-effective way to find out.
Do you have any comments, Mike?
I spoke with Mark today, and I did call Rutland Regional Planning Commission to talk to Devin, and I left a message for him on voicemail. So I just looked it up, the grant up, and it's a municipal planning grant. The town's used them several times. Usually it's for rewriting of the town plan or rewriting of the zoning ordinances, but it can be used for many different things. And I provided the select board with a copy of the program description for the municipal planning grant. And Mark mentioned that there's a match, and it is, so for a single municipality to apply for this grant, they can apply for anywhere from $2,500 up to $30,000 with a minimum local cash match requiring 10%. And the reason the cash match is in there is you can't use in-kind time and stuff for it. So it has to be cash. And it's based on the total project cost. So we would, if the board would authorize it, I'd apply. I have all the data. One of the reasons why I asked for me to do it is it's gonna be a lot easier for me to pull the information together that they're gonna be looking for. And I work hand in hand with Devin or whoever his representative is from the Regional Planning Commission to apply for a municipal planning grant and this is where the wording is going to come in, is what are we looking for? And is a feasibility study for this building to be used as a recreation facility? That's something that has to get kind of flushed out. And I imagine there's people on Zoom and here in the room that might want to speak to that. I don't know that. But it could provide a tool to the select board that comes from a independent or unbiased source that could dig into this and find out whether this is feasible to operate ourselves or should we have to have partners or other sources of income, that kind of stuff. We haven't really got that deep. That would be part of the grant process for the application, but it won't start without the select board authorizing the basically $3,300 up to $3,300 for the match. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that the board knew is each year in the planning and zoning budget, we account for municipal planning grants. So that money is in the budget. It's programmed for that purpose. We're just not in a year where we need to use it for a town plan or rewriting zoning bylaws. So,
Any other questions, comments? Joe?
I guess, I think this is a question for our town manager. What is the timeline for this? Assuming that we do approve the application for the grant, how long would it be before we receive a report?
I'm not sure if I can answer how long before we receive the report. They're saying November they would notify us if we are awarded, but there is in this handout, there was a timeline.
It's on page 1.
2025 or something. What page is it?
It's on page 1. This handout.
Yeah, that. Final report and project submitted was December 31st of '25. Grant term would end November 30th of 2025. Project is complete and all funds spent. And the start of the grant term would be 1 December of 2023 if we were awarded the grant,
Any other questions?
2+ years.
basically.
Joe?
It says within 24 months is what it says.
That would mean, go ahead, Joe.
Obviously, the latest decision made by the joint towns of Castleton and Hubbardton was to sell the building. Now, that has not gone very well. And, but presumably, that's the effective decision that still stands.
Yes, it is.
And if the combined boards were to proceed following the receipt of a purchase and sale agreement to do that, then this would kind of abort this project, I assume.
It would seem it would tie the town up with the ability to sell for this period of time. Is that correct, Mike?
Well, if the purchase and sales agreement was received and accepted by, and both towns' boards accepted that and moved forward, then we know that the public can submit petitions to,
Sure.
against the conveyance of the property, which would extend that out there anyway. And it seems like that seems to be like the likely outcome based on what we know circulate in the community, but it would extend it would kind of put a stay of execution on the sale of the building until a regular town or special town meeting is held and the voters decide what they want to do.
I'd like to make a motion that Mike, do this grant process. How do we really know which way is best if we don't do it and do it by, not a party involved? I believe that you should apply.
I would second that.
Other questions?
I'll just say that I agree with moving forward with this grant. I mean, I don't see a downside to it at this point. And I don't, well, is there any reason why that, 2-year time frame couldn't be compressed? Given the right people working on this project and the right motivation? Does it have to take 2 years? I would think probably not. What do you think?
It seems to me that there's a lot of interest in the town, so there would be no shortage of residents who would want to participate in this, and sometimes that can make things go longer, or sometimes it's really beneficial to hear what everyone has to say and come together with it. So I think it can stay within the 2 years. I'm not sure I can officially or accurately answer whether it could be compressed or not.
So is this a study would be done by an independent contractor or I didn't have an opportunity to read this ahead of time. So who actually does the feasibility study?
So what happens if you approve it and we are awarded? So if I apply and we're awarded the grant, then we'd have to put out, because have to use competitive bids, then we'd have to seek bids, and it could be an independent firm, it could be Rutland Regional Planning Commission, who could submit to be awarded the bid. So an RFP or RFQ has to be written stating specifically what we want. So we're not at that point yet. I need enough information to write the grant application, but it doesn't need to be in such detail. At this point, we're splitting hairs or getting into the nuts and bolts of it all. That should be done when we write it should be written into the RFQ or the RFP.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I have one more.
Is it fair to say that this might effectively tie up the ability of the two towns to sell the building during this feasibility study?
I wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't think so, Joe.
No, that's why I used the word abort.
Yeah.
If we did,
That's a tough word today.
it still means something.
Go ahead, Joe, I'm
Some
sorry.
people. Yeah, my assumption is that that process, this process, if we get the grant, would run its course, that there may be an opportunity to try to accelerate the timeline, perhaps not, but that if fill in the blank, 6 months from now, the towns decided to accept an offer, it would just terminate that planning process.
Okay, I can live with that one. Anyone else have any comments regarding that?
I mean, that would leave a question, presumably for the grantors. What are the financial arrangements to the consulting firm that got this job
Yep.
if they've only proceeded, 25% of the way down the road?
Yep.
I don't think that's our responsibility to navigate.
Mike?
Well, maybe one comment to, as a caveat to that is, I don't know if it would absolutely abort or it could parallel plan with it, because if the purchase and sales agreement is received and accepted by both towns' boards, it still has to go to either a special or the next town meeting. So there could be some time lags there, depending on what the voters decide on. So it might not be aborted immediately, but it could still parallel plan with it. But at some point, it would, if the voters, say it went to a vote and the voters said they want to sell the school, and there was a buyer, then it would kind of terminate this planning grant.
Just for clarity, everyone needs to remember that it only would go to the voters if the voters petition for a vote.
Right.
And this would give the voters the information they need. I know there's a lot of skepticism about this, and I expect that. That's healthy. But this is a one-shot deal. There's not gonna be another one. And, we have a great town here. It's not thriving and growing the way we'd like it to. People aren't lined up to move here like we'd like them to. And recreation is a big part of where people decide to live today, especially the generation that's coming along now. My generation wanted to live someplace where you could get overtime all the time. And this generation doesn't. They're looking for recreation. You look at what's happened to Poultney with the mountain bike trails down there. Luckily they had a benefactor that put a lot of money in down there. Has it replaced the college? Not quite, but boy, it's gone a long ways. A lot of people are moving to that community because of the recreational opportunities. We're in a better spot, really, than Poultney is. We're really close to the ski areas. We have the college. We have the rail trail. I know that that's in a tough spot right now, but in a few years, the Velomont Bicycle Trail that runs from Canada to Massachusetts is going to run right through our town. These are things that younger families are looking for. And for these younger families to have a place where they could get together with other young families, or for adults to get together. When I was younger, we played co-ed volleyball at that school at night. It went to 2 nights because there were so many people there. We had people from 20 to 70 playing volleyball, and then it wasn't available anymore because the janitors didn't want us to have to sweep the floor in the morning. I don't get some of that stuff, but those are the things that build a rich social fabric in a community. And you know, this is a great town, but we all know that we've seen the social fabric unravel, just like it has all around the country. You know, you see people that are not working and protesting. It's not because they're really happy, it's because they're not finding satisfaction in their lives, and these are things that build satisfaction. We have a lot of the tools right here in this town, but we could use a couple more things to complete it. If this doesn't work, it doesn't work, but we don't have enough information right now to make that decision, in my opinion, and I appreciate you considering that.
Joe?
Well, I seconded Mary Lee motion. I do have a small concern that we shouldn't be acting on matters that come up in the citizens' concerns section of the agenda. People obviously had no idea we'd be taking action on that tonight. As I thought about that, I decided that it was, there really was no harm in taking action on this tonight. I mean, we are simply authorizing the manager to apply. A separate decision would have to be made to accept, and even that is probably only going to benefit the town. I have a hard time imagining somebody who would object to the fact that we acted on this tonight.
Would that be with the consideration that Mike would write the grant proposal?
I think that's a separate issue. He sounds like he's prepared to do that and thinks that he's best positioned to do that, given his access to data. So if you wanted to include that in the motion, that would be fine. I'm not sure that's necessary.
I'd like to see that in the motion myself.
Didn't I say?
I think you did.
When I made the motion, I made the motion that Mike,
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
that's true.
good enough.
I remember that.
Any other questions? Okay, we have the motion, we have the second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thanks so much. I really appreciate you listening to this tonight. I apologize for making your meeting go long. The timing just,
Are you going to stay?
you know, I hate to even tell you this, but when I left, my wife was putting a quiche in the oven and it should be just about ready.
Did I hear you just
Ham and
volun-
cheese quiche is just as good as it gets.
Did I not
Okay.
hear you volunteer to help us out as much as you possibly could over the next 6 months with this?
I will.
That's what I thought I heard you say.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so
Okay.
much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Next gentleman. I'm sure you're going to be brief.
I'm Rick Morales. I'm with the federal government. I came here. This is informative, and we are visiting. We have done all kind of interviews, radio, TV, newspapers, and we are doing all kind of city council meetings and select board meetings because our purpose is to share this information so you all can help us on sharing that with the citizens, constituents. Everything, all this is related to the past floods. So we are still here, and the latest updates are that the FEMA and SBA deadlines to apply are until October 31st. So to register with FEMA is until October 31st, and to apply with the SBA, October 31st. I represent SBA, but we are a small business administration, but the Office of Disaster Assistance. We are not regular SBA. So that means that we don't only assist businesses, but we also help homeowners, renters, and nonprofits. I brought some flyers that is very important information.
Thank you.
And I'll give some explanation
Thank you.
of what is all these documents.
thank you.
So, like you can see, for example, this document is for homeowners and renters, and the most important information here is the 800 number, so that people can call there, so they can answer you all the questions to help you with the status of the applications, and they can also tell where are the centers, disaster recovery centers and business recovery centers. The disaster recovery centers are from FEMA, but we were there too. If a person go to a disaster recovery center, they can apply with FEMA and SBA on the same day, same building, no duplication of benefits. I brought this USDA flyer. They are another alternative and another federal agency, of course. You all know that they have a part for farmers and another for rural development. They have public assistance like FEMA, but we don't provide public assistance. We don't provide funds for bridges or roads. So, but they have also assistance for homeowners repairs and business repairs for the past floods, so they are a good alternative too. I think that I'll send this also to Karen Stewart. So I requested the participation to her, and I was invited by her. So I sent all this information digitally to Karen Stewart too. So I do that. A flyer here also is for the SBDC. That means a Small Business Development Center. That's for businesses. So they have business advisors. So they know about business plans. They give trainings, marketing. They know everything about disasters. So they know about SBA, USDA, FEMA. So they are a good resource. And on that link, SBA.gov local assistance, the people can find the closest center for the SBDCs. Those centers are very valuable. That's more for the businesses. Also, I came here to give some examples on how the people can take advantage of this. Because of course, like you all know, FEMA is grants. And we are not grants, and the people get discouraged with the SBA. So I came to give some examples on how the people can use these funds. Even though when they can tell you all, for example, I don't want that, I don't qualify, I don't need it. Yeah, it's very beneficial for some people to apply with the SBA. For example, if you were denied by FEMA, most of the time FEMA refer the survivors, the people that is affected, that's how we call them, they refer them to SBA. Of course, they get discouraged with the SBA because we have low interest rate loans from the federal government. But the people, this example that I'll give is for homeowners and renters. So if they are denied by FEMA and then denied by SBA, SBA might refer them to FEMA again. So that means that FEMA can give them other disaster assistance like grants. So at least that people can have hope to receive something, even though when they were denied 2 times. Because we are like a financial verification process. With FEMA, we work jointly with them. In other words, I know that we have so many requirements, the federal government, but you all know why we have so many requirements for the things that happened on the past. So that's why we are like that. They want to verify everything of every person. They want to be sure if they can receive the funds, the federal funds. Also, for the people that had insurance, they don't need to wait for that payment or settlement. With us, they might get the money faster, so to rebuild quicker and faster. So that's why they apply with us. And if the insurance company pay you, they have to pay first the federal government automatically. That's one benefit, because we have the 1 year deferment with 0% interest rates. So within that time, because you don't have to pay anything, they can rebuild. And if they receive that payment, that's why they apply with us. Also, some people that they didn't receive enough funds from FEMA, that they say, oh, that's a drop in a bucket. They can attach the denegation letter from the SBA and put that in the appeal of FEMA to see. That's another alternative to see if FEMA sometimes they can increase the first amount that they give. It's not guaranteed, like everything in life is not guaranteed, but that's another alternative that the people use this. So to summarize, when the people if they are denied by FEMA, if they receive funds but are not enough for them, for example, I always say this: on the first day of disaster, or even though right now, I always say apply with everything, with Red Cross, Salvation Army, FEMA, SBA, USDA. If you had insurance, claim that too. Because that's the issue. The people, you never know from what part are going to get the money faster. So the people need to rebuild sometimes for yesterday. And I know that we are not the best alternative, but we are an option for some people, and the best one for some people. We have approved right now more than 23 million, and so that's why we are here. This is a long-term recovery, because some people choose 30 years, and if they don't take like a lot of thousands. I have seen payments of $20 a month, less than that. So that's why we are an alternative for people that don't have enough funds or they are not receiving enough funds from other federal governments or from the state or from nonprofits. So that's why we are still visiting and pushing the information to see if we can still help more citizens and constituents. And of course, that's why I'm visiting all kind of towns, because Rutland is a primary county. That means that even though if you don't see physical damages in all the towns in Rutland, some of them receive a lot of physical damages on infrastructure, real estate, inventory, equipment. That means physical damages. For economic damages, that's more for businesses and non-profits. That's losses on profits, payroll, ordinary expenses to keeping the businesses on business. And I always give example for farmers. They always ask if they can qualify with the SBA, and I always tell them, hey, nobody can tell nobody if they are going to qualify or not, because it's like almost everything in life depends. It's case by case basis. They need to apply, nothing to lose. No fees, nothing to apply, nothing to lose. So it's a good way to start to recover applying with the SBA. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morales. Any questions for Mr. Morales?
Karen was gonna post this online, so.
Post it online?
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's my priority. That's why I came here. Thank you so much for the time and opportunity for having me here. Yep.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you for coming.
Anyone else who wishes to address the board? Items not on the agenda. Anyone on Zoom, Mike?
I'm looking, nobody's got their hand up. Anybody on Zoom want to address the board for an item not on the agenda?
No?
Silence means no.
Okay, we'll move on then. Town clerk, contract presented for approval. Avenu Land Records, I believe we have a corrected
Yeah, but,
update.
yeah, I gave you a corrected copy, and Nedra's on, but if I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a statement in the beginning.
Sure.
So when Nedra first approached me, this is a 5-year contract, and Nedra did a lot of homework on this, and we sat down today and went through the changes, and I'm not gonna steal her thunder, but I will say that what's being presented is less money in the long run for us, and provides, it's cloud-based, not a server in her office. And we went through all these notes today on how much it costs now, what's it gonna cost in the future, and I was like, it seems to me like a no-brainer, but I'm not on the select board, so Nedra's here. If you have any questions of her, that she can try to answer them for you.
Okay. Any questions for Nedra? Seeing none. Is there a motion? Nedra recommends going with the cloud-based system.
I would recommend that I would move that we authorize the town manager to sign a contract with Avenue Insights and Analytics for the provision of services, specifically cloud-based contract at the cost of $700 a month and a one-time $300 online search portal fee, plus supplies and film.
Is there a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on, the on-road diesel Canadian blend bid award.
You got, Mr. Chairman, you have the highway foreman, Jeff Davidson, who's on Zoom.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hello, how are we doing this evening?
Just wonderful.
Oh, fantastic. All right, I'll join y'all for this. Winter blend. We had our bids out. Champlain Valley came back. Cheapest price, lowest rack price. It's kind of a no-brainer on this one. Any questions?
Any questions for Jeff?
Just one, let me get to the right page here. So Jeff, my question is that if we go with Champlain Valley Fuel, they're actually going to reduce the price over the course of January and February. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. For they have a partial blend that we can use. We're actually going to need fuel prior to the complete blend. So we'll be able to get a partial blend coming up here within the next couple of weeks. After that, we'll go to the full blend, and as winter progresses, the price reduces.
Any other questions for
I have
Jeff?
no more questions.
Joe?
So, we have before us rack price figures from Sam's U-Save and Champlain Valley, but we are not going to be using those if we take your recommendation and go with the Champlain Valley bid. Is that correct?
Their rack price was 1 cent cheaper than Sam's on that day. That price fluctuates. And ultimately, Champlain could have bought this months ago, and they're giving us the current rack price that they would have paid. So, regardless, they're still, 14 cents cheaper than Sam's U-Save.
But we're this bid that we'd be approving provides us with prices per month for the period of October through February. Not,
Yes, and there will be a decrease after that month.
right. And that's regardless of the rack price.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff? Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we enter into a contract with Champlain Valley Fuel for the winter diesel fuel, winter blend on-road diesel for 23-24.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, Joe?
Could I suggest to Mr. Combs that perhaps he add at the rate specified in their October 4, 2023 letter to the town manager?
I would be happy to add that. Let's consider that added.
That's okay with you, Mary Lee?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, all those
I
in
got-
favor? Yes, Bob?
Jim, I got one question. I know Mike's already answered this quite a long time ago. Why are we going to on-road when we've always used off-road in our trucks, which we legally can? What was the reasoning?
Mr. Chairman, to answer Bob's question, the price was actually 1 cent cheaper to go with the Canadian blend rather than using kerosene to mix it. And that was when Mike Holden was on the select board. That's when that question first came up.
Okay.
That's not what I asked. We've always used off-road in our trucks. I thought you said something about one of the truck manufacturers said it would void the warranty on the truck if we used off-road in our trucks.
Yeah, yes, Bob, you're correct. The Dodge Ram, that warranty was not honored because we used off-road diesel in the truck, not on-road diesel. And that was not something.
Okay, so that's fine. Okay. That's all I wanted to get.
Okay. If not, you ready for the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, Bob abstains. Highway Department parts purchase. You still there, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
What we have is plow and grader blade equipment. I'm not sure, do you guys have printouts or copies?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
All right. We're looking for wing blades, grader blades, shoes, as well as a 48-inch stitching bucket blade and a scarifier blade for the grader. Talked to multiple vendors, little research, talked to the guys, what we have at the shop, what's been working, what hasn't. And what I've proposed is a little combination from a few different vendors. And I feel like it gives us the equipment that we're going to need to move forward and save the town money in the long run. So essentially, if you look at a blade to a blade, you may see a significant difference. What it doesn't tell is that the more expensive blade is going to last 3-4 years longer than another blade, hence eliminating the need for multiple guys to be removing the blades, cutting the bolts off, putting on the hoist, and replacing these blades year after year. That way we can have multiple people out in the field instead of in the garage changing blades.
Any other questions for Mike or for Jeff?
So what precisely are you recommending, Jeff?
Option one.
Option number one.
And Mr. Chairman, to add to that, one of the, where I was educated on this is when we bought that Dodge Ram, the blades that are on that wing plow and stuff on that Dodge Ram haven't been changed, and we've been using that going on the third year.
It's had 3 years. It's a saber blade.
So versus the other type blades where they're replacing them yearly or maybe even more, and that's probably
Correct. We have not tried the HP Fairfield Coopers. They're similar, but we haven't used them. The gentleman that I've spoken with from V-Trans and other towns, the saber blades, they've had the same result that we've had with ours. The longevity, the carbide has just kept going. I got the gentleman's name, Bruce Nichols from Heath. Excellent customer service. He's a sole sales agent through Built Blades. Text, emails, calls. He's very accessible as well.
Any other questions for Jeff on this? So your recommendation is option one, total cost $7,333.54. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
$13. I'm sorry. You said 733. It's 713.
313.
7313.54.
Correct. Is there a motion?
We'll make a motion, we authorize the town manager and the highway foreman to purchase the carbide blades and buckets as specified in option one for a total of $7,313.54.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, Bob, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, Joe.
Moving on. Winter salt vendor approval. Is it Jeff again?
All right.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yep. Again, some research, kind of what we've had in the past, what other towns are doing, other private plow guys with salt. Began adding some magnesium chloride last year to integrate it with the clear salt. What I've found is the addition of the magnesium chloride to the clear salt is a reduction of approximately 30%. You can buy the magnesium chloride and you can add it yourself. If we go with Cargill, they have a product Clear Lane that's magnesium chloride pre-blended. I've done the math, we get 15% instead of 30%. We're still coming in under what it would cost to get our 1,000 tons of clear salt. This also saves us time, mixing, the chances of not properly mixing. It's a safety thing outside. Inevitably, it's just cheaper. We can start with our clear salt in the beginning months when we don't necessarily need the magnesium that it melts at a colder temperature. So you have basically a superior product for less money.
Okay. Mike, I assume you concur with this?
I do. I mean, I'm not going to. I can't argue with what the research says on it. So
Okay.
I always look at, does it fit the budget, and are we doing what's right by our citizens? And I don't.
Does
doesn't
it
see
fit
any
the budget?
Yeah.
It does, okay. Is there a motion?
So the recommendation is option one again?
Yeah, option one it is, yeah.
Make a motion, we authorize the town manager and the highway foreman to purchase 1,000 tons of bulk treated salt Clear Lane from Cargill for a price of $83,300.
Second?
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Finally, chief.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, also, I want to say thank everybody. The town's been fantastic to work with. The guys in the garage, Russ over and Jeff over at the treatment plant, Chris up the transfer station. It's been a really nice first 90 days. I've thoroughly enjoyed you guys are lucky you have a really nice crew. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, chief.
All right. So let's go. We got a number of things to go over, but it won't be too long. So calls of service. Justin and I talked about adding. We actually broke down the tickets even, so that was it's a little more work. But with the new system, it's a little quicker than it was doing it through Spillman. So let's go over the September report. Calls of service. About the same as August. I think we just had 2 more calls. We increased our traffic stops in September. And nothing really stands out outside of that. Some property watches, a little more directed patrols. Any questions on the service calls? No questions? Go criminal arrest. September we had 7 compared to 23 in August. I don't know what we did right, but that's usually our average, even from 7 to 12 anyway. So 23 was a little odd, but nothing really stands out in there. Any questions on that, on the arrests? So the traffic violations is new. So we compared August, September, and we look at the totals of what we did. And you notice that in September, we had 44, 11 to 20 over, and 10, 21 to 30, and 5, 31 plus. And as you'll see in the notes, a lot of that came on North Road. Some people even going like 70 miles an hour. So that's where they come out. I don't know why. Some were obviously students coming from the lake. Before that, it was sometimes people going for the rodeos. So those are the kind of people that I don't want to stereotype them, but those were some of the higher end ones. And then you saw the total increased. Any questions on that? But it's good that you break it down, tell you what we write for. If you look down each of those things, it's not unusual. None of them really stand out outside of, you know, the 20 overs. That's not a normal thing. You know, inspections, license suspension, inspections, insurance, stuff like that. And some of those were actually issued at a crash sites too. So a lot of times if we have multiple cars involved in an accident, normally one person's going to be being issued a ticket for if it's determined their fault. Okay, no questions on that. Calls of service, university obviously went up because the school's in session. We did more directed patrols, which is actually not on campus. It's really Main Street. It's really where all the off-campus housing is. Elm Street, Mechanic, Main Street, Exit 5. That's what those mean. Doesn't mean we're patrolling on campus. It means we're patrolling the high pedestrian flow of traffic that comes out from the university. And any questions on those? No questions on those. We'll go to the other backup provided, and it just, you know, it's the same thing. We keep track of that. How many times we provide backup to certain agencies. The one in West Rutland was really actually Justin going home, actually, and he happened to be hearing a call go out, and he backed up somebody going to Ira. So, as you see the notes down there, September, like, was steady as we went over the service calls. The assaultive crimes, I know that we mentioned, if you go back, that we did have one aggravated assault in September for an arrest. Officers also, we've increased number of, we really have the zero tolerance for anybody hanging out, especially in the dark, park and rides, Crystal Beach, Green Dump. We tell them to move on. Because as the weather changes, you're gonna get more and more people. It's tempting to be sleeping in cars in certain areas. Property checks, we continue to do those. Talked about the traffic stuff. We did pick up all the carts today, so there's no traffic carts out right now. We picked all of them up, gearing up for the winter. We don't keep them out in the winter. And we haven't really followed up on the permanent ones yet. I know that we did have some information on it, but I don't think we actually discussed whether we wanted some permanent ones put up on poles. Was that brought up with the board? I had to do some research on it.
Mr. Chairman, that was brought up, and I was just reading today, some of the select board notes from Fairhaven, and the governor's highway, they got some to this governor's highway safety grant, so when that opens up, that'd be the.
Was it the carts or was it the actual pole
The
mounted?
pole mounted ones.
Okay. I'll talk to Justin about it, yeah. TSA still going strong. They're asking us to increase if we can. I said, well, that'll be a contract change. But we will do 2 more hours starting next Wednesday. Instead of 8 to 4, we'll do 7 to 5. And I told them that I wouldn't do another half a day unless I got a couple other officers trained. So that's in the process, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. Because since we're the only location in the state that's providing those services right now. Yeah. I don't know what the other ones, why the other ones failed.
We just gotta get bigger signs, because they're always at the town office looking to have their fingerprints taken. I take it for them, but.
And that's something I did tell Karen to put on our, because now the fingerprint through the online's been working out great. With the exception of the TSA people think they're signing up that way. So I told her to put, this is non-TSA, hazmat, pre-check. You have to go through that organization, not through us. We ran into one last week that this guy thought he signed up for it. Any questions on any of that stuff?
Bill?
Chief, in the past, there have been some issues related to people hanging out at or behind the Castleton Village School. I assume that has dropped off?
Well, we haven't, I've never gotten a direct, this has been through a neighbor that lives near there. They've been patrolling back there. I mean, we think it's students. And that's one of the things that you're gonna find out, the longer that's vacant and there's no action there, people are going behind that building. Drinking, probably smoking. There's no cameras.
Not yet.
And here's the thing, as we know through community policing, through history, the longer a building stays vacant, not used, you'll get more graffiti, you'll get damage, you'll get stuff like that go on. That's what I fear. That's what'll happen with that building. But the guys know, they're going behind there. They're going behind the library, they're going all the way down, coming out. Of course, in front, they sit there, watch Mechanic Street, so that limits that time.
Mr. Chairman, I did send on the concerns that were passed to me by, by Heath, actually. But there was neighbors that were complaining, and I passed it on to the chief to follow up on those. So when we get the complaints, what I recommend, though, is if they see something out there, is to call 911 or the police, not send it to somebody else who send it to me, and then I send it to them, and days or hours go by, so.
Yeah, it's definitely call the police. And even the number that we have, the 5012, goes to the duty phone. Who's ever on duty, so.
Anything else for the chief on this? Joe or Mike?
I just had one thing I wanted to follow up on for the town. The town of Hubbard's town clerk sent me a message because Floyd Morey passed, the constable, Janet's husband, and they're concerned that they don't have anybody for coverage up there for 8 hours a week. And so I did pass it on to the chief. And I don't want to speak for you, Chief, but they're looking to see if the town would provide 8 hours of coverage per week, 8 hours per week of coverage up there. And I feel I owe them a response in a timely manner. And Chief, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was kind of interested, but I don't think I have, I mean, my officers are busy as it is. We have SROs, we have the TSA, and we're trying to do everything here, keep everybody feeling, so those 8 hours would have to be above. I don't think it's worth. Here's the problem. If you decide to do a contract with them, let's say they agree to it, you do 2 hours, 4 days, do a 6-hour block. Benson tried this years ago with me, and my whole thing is that it's got to be worthwhile. 8 hours is nothing. I don't know what you're going to do in 8 hours. That's my point. I don't know what they're looking for. So anyway, I did not put anything together, and I don't know how the select board feels about it, whether you would support it or not.
Anything else from the chief on this?
I got one question, just.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
I just want to ask the chief if for the next meeting, well, he can kind of rattle off, what is it you have for staffing now? We have.
So we have 5 full-time. One's going to the academy in February. That's Naj. And then I have 2 part-timers. So I'm actually down 2 part-timers. Normally I try to hold 4 part-timers. I just don't have
Okay,
any
that's
other. Yeah.
Okay.
Mike?
That's what I was.
To get back to this, it really probably isn't my decision to make. I mean, from calling back to the town clerk in Hubbard, and who will pass it on to their select board, that we're not interested in the 8 hours a week. We just can't staff it. Is that acceptable from this board? I mean, I don't want to get you guys. I don't want this board to be caught by surprise when you get a call from someone that I haven't shared this with you or brought it to your attention.
Well, there's 2 things that will happen. We've seen it in other towns. If we let's say we decide to do 15 hours, let's just throw a higher figure out. So normally that's covered by the state. So a tendency will happen of they'll hold cases over, like they do in other towns, for the department that would cover that town, even if it's a part-time basis. So that, which would increase our responsibility either to follow up on something that happened a day that we weren't working. Let's say it was non-emergency. That's how those things work in the police realm. You start getting into a territory that I don't want to be in. I don't want to stretch out my officers and feel like they've got to do more for a town that's paying for whatever, how many hours.
Do they have any other contract, like with the sheriff's department, state police?
No? Well, state has to cover it.
I know
So
the
that's-
state has
That's
to.
regardless, but they don't have
They
any
have
other.
nothing like with the sheriff's department or anything?
No,
They
no.
can always contract with them.
They can. They can.
So my response to the town of Hubbardton is the town of Castleton just can't support this. Is that?
If we're
I-
already short-handed, I can't see.
Yeah, plus I got one going on the academy for 16 weeks.
I guess that's it, Mike,
Yeah.
unless somebody else disagrees.
No.
No. Okay, thanks, chief. You want to move on to the next one? You want to
You
stay
wanna do
right
the-
there?
Yeah, do you want to do the ordinance?
If you'd like to, sure.
So I handed out the new draft. I had sent I originally put the one I had made originally, but I sent it to Joe Mark, and he was working out with me anyway. We just hadn't met together, so I know that you all wanted to hear this, so I ended up emailing to him. He came back with some changes, and these are the changes, the one I gave back, the one in the meeting I gave to you, so disregard the other one. Now, you have a copy of the ordinance that's in effect now, right? You can see what I'm talking about. I had to change the section numbers, because we added I actually added some definitions, so everything that's highlighted here is what is new, and the time frame. If you compare it, it said 11 before, I put it at 10. And the definitions is something that, and I looked at Rutland City, Wallingford, Burlington, Boston, San Jose, North Carolina. I looked at various different sizes, see who had what kind of noise ordinances out there. I think Boston had the best one. North Carolina had a good one too. So, and Woodstock. So I looked at, one of the things that we were dealing with the situation down on Creek Road was the noise level. So something that, what's reasonable for me is different what's reasonable for you. So we had to have some type of standard. 70 decibels is something that is a national standard. What they say you can't listen, you shouldn't listen more than 8 hours straight, or continually throughout the week, or it can affect your hearing. So that's kind of what I put for in the definition for the for sound level. And if you look at the changes, okay, if you look at the changes, because we have a good noise ordinance, we really do. We just don't have a standard for that situation for, and it talks about the time frame, 10 to 7. Okay, 70 is not a lot. 50s could be normal conversation like right now. Because remember, Joe, we did that and I was at 50. So 70 is not that much, but at nighttime it does make a difference. Because most of the noise ordinances that we deal with, that my officers issue violations, are obviously for the off-campus house and parties. But they're usually well after 11. They're usually like at 1 or almost 2 a.m., which is totally unreasonable for that time frame. So this is kind of what I came up with. We did have an issue. You see on definitions number 4, that last sentence. So the sound level meter testing location will be at the public access point or sidewalk. So basically, where the public access is to any business, property, whatever it may be, that's where you get the reading. You don't go up to the building itself and put it right there next to it. Has to be where it has access public, going by it, walking, driving, or whatever. That's what I mean by that. It was kind of hard to put it in words, but that's what I mean by that. If you were to use that. Bob, you don't have the new one the new draft, so you probably can't see what we did. This isn't set in stone. This is strictly a draft, so this is just something.
Sure.
Joe? Phil's got a question for you.
Yeah, two things, Chief. First, under the definitions section, which I think is a good addition, there's a repeated phrase, as the new draft presently stands, it says, an unreasonable noise shall be any noise that disturbs, injures, or endangers the peace or health of another. And then it goes on to say,
Okay.
or when it endangers the peace or health of another.
Gotcha.
So that redundancy should be.
That was something I didn't X out. What I did, remember that cut and paste that you had put it up in that section, so yeah, I'll take that out.
Easy to do.
Yeah.
And on that last phrase that you mentioned, the last sentence of 4, thinking about the situation that has been reported to us on Creek Road, it seems like the concern is that the noise at the property line between the dog and the residence
Right.
is what the residents would like us to be measuring.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that that qualifies as a public access point.
Well, I mean, he's right on Pine Street, so I don't
Right.
think 10 feet, whatever that is, the distance is not that far. But, I mean, we can't walk on people's private property. We have to have one standard where public access ends or begins, kind of thing.
Well, maybe there is no public access on some private property, right?
Correct, there's no public access on private property. So we have to take it from the road, from Pine Street.
Or the property line.
If he that's private property, his private property.
If he were to give you permission
We
to go to
could,
his.
yeah, I
Well,
mean, we could do that.
I don't think we should be dependent upon getting permission, you know.
Well,
to
see, that's
enforce.
why you want, that's what we're only worried about with the public, how it affects the public. So whatever that line is would be That's where I would stick it to there. I don't think it
Okay.
would make it, he's so close as it is, I don't think the difference would be much.
Well, you know, you're the one that would have to interpret this language, and you know what this is meant
Yeah.
to mean, so I'm fine with it.
Does everybody understand that?
I think so. I do.
Well, I wrote it once before and it was kind of confusing, so that's my experience when we had it in Woodstock. That's what we did. We judged it public access.
But you gotta
Whenever
put
that property begins private business, then we'd stop there, and then that's when you start doing the.
You gotta put a stake in the ground somewhere, right?
Correct. And it makes it fair for everybody.
So,
Any other questions for?
yeah, I have a couple. Your original draft, you had barking dogs and something else in there, and those are no longer there?
You know why? Because we already have it in the dog ordinance, animal control. So it would be redundant. I had forgotten all about that.
Okay,
So it's already there. It's already listed in there for,
so the constituent that reminds me occasionally about their neighbors barking dogs?
that's
Should be
animal
Talking to
control.
the animal control officer?
Absolutely.
Okay, I can do that. Second question, on, section 3, or section 4, paragraph A, I wonder if we should add the words at the last sentence, or in such a manner as to unreasonably disturb the peace, quiet, or comfort of the public at any time. Should those words be in there? The reason I say that is because the noise ordinance was interpreted earlier this summer that the business in question could be as loud as they wanted between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., and they only had to be quiet after 10 p.m. When there were complaints that they were disturbing the peace of the neighbors in proximity.
What are you talking about?
Well,
Was that
specifically, when I can't remember the gentleman's name, was in here talking about the loud music from the Bombazine Dog,
Okay.
and that they said that they could play their music loud until 10 p.m.
Wow, loud is, see, the probably was higher than 70 anyway.
Well, and so where I'm going with this is instead of, is if should we consider inserting the words quiet or comfort of the public at any time?
So here's the problem with that.
And, yeah, and that's what, point
Here's
to
the problem
discuss.
with that, because we really refer to social events, which we have a separate area in there. It's lawnmowers are louder. People working on houses is louder. Chainsaws are louder. Leaf blowers are like 100. They work those throughout the day. That's where we don't want to get into. I don't want to have my officers run around and chasing people with leaf blowers during the day.
But this is about music,
Correct.
so it would not get into leaf blowers.
What about wedding receptions? At the lodge?
Well, if they have music, that would fall under A, and if we adopt Mr. Combs' suggestion, a complaint could be brought in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah. I'm fine. If that's what you want, I just think that's gonna open up.
Well, I threw
I'm
it out
not
there
trying to
for
be
discussion.
unfair here. I'm trying to be realistic.
I threw it out there for discussion specifically because if that man's, if that gentleman's, words were correct, he said that the Bombazine Dog was under the impression they could be as loud as they wanted between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., and they only had to be quieter after 10 p.m.
But
I
I,
recall those words being
No,
said.
no,
And I just want to make sure that, if I decide to run my, go hire a big sound system and have a great big party at my house that you can hear at Mary Lee's house, is that appropriate?
well, you also have those concerts down
Right.
on off of Rice Willis.
That's true.
They're loud. So.
Louder for Heath than they are
So
for me, and I can hear
here's,
'em.
I thought about you're right, because I thought about this. Now, Boston has one where they have 50 during the daytime, like for particular music events, like 50 decibels. I mean, you could actually decrease that for music in the day to 50 instead of 70. I'm just throwing things out. I mean, there's ways you can do it. If you want to do it, if you want to do anything to do with music, concerts, whatever, and make it, then I wouldn't need the 10 PM to 7 AM. I'd put it at all times.
Well, I just think that it needs to have some verbiage in there somewhere that would give your officers the means and us the ability to say that you have to be reasonable during the day. And maybe they were being reasonable, maybe they weren't, because I didn't go down and listen to it.
He did tell me once he said they were at like 50 and they did it through their phone app and that was all right. So, and I happened to find that one in Boston that they have 50 for those during the day, daytime hours.
You know, 50 is like
It's like here.
right here,
But
your conversation.
when you're testing it on the public access,
Sure.
that's where it's gonna diminish. If I was right on top of you and did it, it'd be louder.
Well, if his complaints were accurate, that he actually had to holler to other people when he's in his house to have a
I don't
conversation.
know, yeah, I
If
don't
he
know
has to
about
actually
that.
holler to turn his TV up, et cetera, then that's well above 50 dB inside his house, which means that at the property line or the public access point, it would have been louder than probably 70.
So,
So I guess, where do we draw the line?
well, that's the
'Cause
thing.
this says 70 dB, or 70 dB between the hours, or is allowed between the hours of 10 and 7. Or between 7 AM and 10 PM. But in between those hours, it can be louder than that? What I said doesn't make sense, I realize that now.
So basically, the most noise ordinance is usually after 10, okay? When you're doing daytime stuff, if you want to make it strictly to apply to music, then I can add that section in there, that any use of operation of music instruments at any time during the 24-hour day is above 70, then it's a violation. I mean, I can do that.
Just how loud is 70 dB?
It's not super loud. I think most of us hear more than that during a week.
Well, I
Go
think
in go in some of these older homes with older people, those TVs are up. I'm serious.
So where I'm going with this is between the hours of 7 AM and 10 PM, there's really no restriction.
Yeah, there is, under
Kind of.
number one. You know, this is all so
Definition.
easy.
Well, go ahead, Jim. I wanna hear it.
Your officer just tells them, turn down the volume. That's all they have to do. And if they don't wish to, then they don't wish to cooperate, then you.
See, here's the thing, if you go down there, is it reasonable? Now, it goes back to that piece on reasonableness. They've gone down there and they've driven by and it was reasonable to them,
Okay,
okay?
this is to your officers, right?
Correct.
Okay,
So, where Mr. Moniz, it's not reasonable. He wants it lower. Well, what are we basing it on?
yeah.
You see, when that's where
Sure.
it's subjective to the person who's ever listening to it.
Yeah.
But I
So,
think we trust you to hire officers with good judgment,
Yep.
who are aware of, what makes a healthy community. And if there's a disagreement between an individual citizen and one of your officers, I would rely on the judgment of your officer.
well, if this happens again, now they're done for the season. So when they open up again in spring, if this is what we got, let's say, you pass this, you agree to it, you sign it with a few changes or whatever, then anything before 10 is reasonable, but anything after 10 has to be 70 or below.
Right.
So what's the difference? Besides that standard, we have something we can measure it.
Well, I think there needs to be a room for a reasonable person's subjectivity.
I agree, but I'm telling you, this'll come back again. What we would think is reasonable going down there and then saying, well, okay, so you go talk to them, let's say it happens again, well, it's not that much, it's not louder, what are you gonna do?
So will your officers have the equipment to accurately measure sound pressure levels?
So that's another thing. So I did price them out. They range anywhere from $79 to $500. I looked at one that was like $189, which is decent. It does both, weighs both A and C. Those are the most common frequencies, but we'd be measuring it under A. So that has two different, all of them carry that capability, A and C. A is the one that we want.
What's that, a certain bandwidth?
The frequency, correct. Yep. Would be under A, is the one that we would use for this.
Are you looking for adoption of this tonight, or
No.
is it something we want to?
No.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
I need
that's
to,
what I wanted.
there's a couple things I wanted to look up on the other ones about the daytime for the 50. I'd have to go back and, I mean, I have them right here. I got the whole binder full of all those ordinances, so I'll go back and kind of look at it. I'll make the changes that we do tonight, all right? I'll take that sentence out in one. And I don't know if there's any other things I need to change outside of what Dick had mentioned about any time. Want me to leave that out for now?
You can leave it out for now, but I just.
No, I it's
understand my
good, yeah.
concern though.
Yep.
I'm not sure why you're looking into 50.
Because that's been used before for music in other towns, like cities.
But it seems to me that one principle that I would support is that the standard should be for less noise at night, right?
Yep.
So the draft says 70 decibels. Why would we say 50?
It's just the music. Why? I don't know. That's why you gotta do work on. Like at the one in here from Boston, that indicates an actual, and they have actual feet from when you measure the device to actually where you're measuring from. I think here it's a little different because they're under, they're a little more different setting than we are.
Yeah. I mean, I could imagine supporting a policy that would say 70 during the day, 50 after 10 p.m. I'm not sure those are the right numbers.
Yeah.
But that idea that will.
50's pretty low, though. 50
He says 50 dBs a refrigerator.
Yeah.
And 60 dBs an electric toothbrush, and 70 dBs is a washing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying the numbers are right, but I think there ought to be, in principle, we ought to have
Yeah.
standards for more quiet at night. And if the chief is uncomfortable with the language of unreasonable to,
I know.
an average citizen, maybe you want a number for the day.
It'd be easier, because it's gonna happen again if we don't have something.
It's like the docks at Crystal Beach.
Could be.
Yeah, I think at this point, I do agree with Mr. Mark that we need to, it
Yeah.
should be quieter at night during the day, and perhaps we need to set a limit at night, and then another limit during the day that's.
For music.
Permits.
Just for music.
Just for music.
Right.
That permits the volume to be increased, but we also need to figure out what those numbers should be.
Doesn't go through the roof.
Yeah, and so I guess I need
Rattle
to
your
educate
mowers.
myself as to just how loud, what.
Well, there's the American National Institute for Standards, which covers everything. It's a huge thing. I have to buy membership to get access to the book. The one I used here is NIOSH, which is also another reputable, which I have access to without having to pay anything to get it. But the standard, all the research I've done on all the decibels, 70 is usually, some of them actually put 75. So, you gotta remember, those things that we talked about, you're putting the noise meter like right almost on top of it. If you were to run you're running a vacuum in the other room, and I had door open, and I run it out, and I do the meter out here, it's gonna be lower, just because of distance. Mary Lou Lee.
Now, you mentioned older people having television
They do.
higher and whatnot.
They do.
Well,
I think he
I'm
was
in
talking about
that
me.
older category. I can't stand loud music. What used to be what I called country, now they've amped it up so that I was a volunteer at the Paramount. And was it Charlie Daniels?
Charlie Daniels.
And I had to ask to do the lobby because I could not stand being in that building and whatnot. And I'm the older group.
Anything else?
My hearing's still good.
Anything else on this topic? Joe?
Just, I'd like to be reminded of the process for changing an ordinance.
Yep.
Once we decide we're happy with the draft you've provided us, we still have to have a delay after that's been publicized, correct?
Correct, you have to warn it. Yeah, don't they have to put a warrant out on it, and then if there's any comments, right, it's like anything else, they can come in and whatever. Yeah, this is not I told Mr. Moniz about that. This is a process, this is not something that's gonna happen overnight, so this is just the first phase of it.
So we have given you enough feedback to make more progress, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if you want me to, I know I got Joe Mark. Joe, I used is that the right email? Because you've got like 3 of them.
Yeah,
You want me to use that one or the other one?
we'll talk
Okay, I'm sorry.
offline.
Okay.
If you
So
can get me by
if you want to be part of that, Dick, I can attach it to it too, just whatever.
Well, not necessarily need to be part of it, I just, I understand sound propagation and how it works, so
Yeah.
you can at least throw me in the loop, and if I
Yeah.
feel like I have something
Okay.
that's worthwhile to share with you, I will.
Okay, Chief,
All right,
thank you very much.
Yep.
Sale of town property policy review, Mike?
In your packet is a copy of the current policy with some recommended changes. It just, I didn't catch this before or really kind of dive into it, but this whole thing about October and April and not being able to sell certain things without creating that list and coming before the select board, and October and April and town meetings, and so I put some language in there that I was hoping that you would be able to review prior to this and get any feedback you might have. What I'm recommending is that instead of October and April, that department heads and the town manager complete a list of unneeded municipal property and supplies or found items, that we do it monthly or as needed and presented to the select board in the first meeting of the month. We don't do this very often.
No.
So it's not gonna be like it's gonna take up a lot of time or of your resources. It's just, instead of having to wait and getting this done. On the back page, if you look at page 2, the very first paragraph, it says also a for sale notice shall be posted at town meeting. Bid opening then must be after town meeting day. I don't really understand what they're trying to say there, but I made a note to myself and said, perhaps it's that a list of items maybe that were sold be listed at the town meeting or in the town report so people can see what was sold, but I don't really understand what that's trying to get to. About town meeting bid opening then must be after town meeting day. I mean, if the board agrees that you want to wait until October and April of every year, it just like this, we have a dump truck right now, it's ready to sell, and it's October, and now I'd have to come before the board with this list and to get this thing sold, and then that generator set that's from the wastewater treatment facility. If we could do it monthly, where I could present it to you in the first meeting, and you agree or don't, you disagree, whatever the outcome is, if you agree, then we post it on the town website, social media, basically, really, it's the town websites, our town's official site. Front Porch Forum is not our official site, neither is Facebook. And we have a place on our website for sale of things and bids and all that stuff. It would go there, and then if you want to adopt the paper, keep the thing in about the paper, but these ads are starting to get really expensive, and we're selling something for $400 or $500 or $600, and the ad costs $200. We're kind of taking away from the benefit of selling the stuff.
I will say a comment that I agree with all or most of your suggestions, because when I read this earlier today, I looked at it and I said, this was written in probably the 80s or 90s.
Mhm.
It's certainly not,
It was adopted in 2020. That's that I brought this back because there was an issue, but I only addressed the one issue. I didn't really dive into all of everything that was going on. And now that we're trying to sell things and we're waiting till October or April, and we're talking about town meetings in there, and I'm hoping that the town would trust me to, come to you monthly if that, or on the first meeting of the month, and we get it sold and out of our way, and we reap the benefits of selling it, and everybody has a chance to bid on it or do it, the residents of the town. But there are provisions in there that if it's sold to another municipality, that we don't have to abide by this. And typically, there's nobody kicking down the doors to buy a beat-up old plow truck. It's gonna be probably a private sale. But we did put one on Municipal, two of them actually, we sold through Municipal. Like two, when Ed Savage was the Public Works Director, so it's been a couple of years, but, there are sites out there that we can put this stuff on, that other municipalities could buy it as well.
Joe?
Starting on the first page, under trade-ins, you have the words "and dealerships" added. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Purchase through bidding or the state's contracts and dealerships.
I said, it could be or dealerships, but if we were to sell a trade, like a perfect situation for this one would have been when the last police car we purchased through John C. Stewart and Sons, they're a dealership, we could have traded our old vehicle into them, rather than sell it out to, private sales or whatever.
Why do we need any of that? Why can't we end the sentence, any vehicle or piece of equipment may be traded in as part of the agreement for purchase of a new vehicle or equipment, period?
I'm okay with that, no argument for me.
I mean, if we follow our purchasing policy, it shouldn't matter whether we're making a purchase through the state's contract or a dealership or bidding.
Fair enough.
I agree with that, Joe. That totally makes sense.
And the next point, we should refer to the select board.
Right. Yep.
Under scrap, I know that it's not always easy, even though we try, to get bids. So the idea of requiring 2 quotes might be impractical. I would prefer to see that 2 quotes from scrap dealers must be sought, or a minimum of 2 quotes from scrap dealers must be sought.
Okay.
If we ask them to bid, but they refuse, we can't have our hands tied and be unable to sell it. For the rest of it, I think the key question is, are we being transparent? Are we letting people know? Do they have the opportunity to try to buy some of this stuff from us? And I agree that for smaller value items, newspaper advertisements are perhaps impractical because they become so expensive. But I think that the higher value items should be advertised in a place that people know about, whether it's the Rutland Herald or the Lakes Region Free Press or the Lakeside News. I'm not sure the where, but it should be public. And, you know, in that value greater than 500, you've crossed out list once in a newspaper of general circulation and at town meeting, but you haven't replaced it with anything. And I think the last point you make about exemption to timing could potentially be abused down the road someday. And on the grounds that something was, you know, losing its value by sitting out of doors, things could bypass what are some of the principles that we're trying to enshrine in this policy. So, I don't know. I don't like the kind of open-endedness of that as it's presently worded.
Maybe they're talking about, because it says following the procedures
Right.
outlined above. So, really, what I was getting to is instead of October and April, if that was changed where it could be monthly or whatever, as long as it's advertised, and I have no issues. I'm not arguing anything about putting it in the paper. We can, for those large items, but the monthly part, if that's already above, then that would be following the procedures above.
Right, and if we take your recommendation that this be adjusted so that you could propose to sell things on a monthly basis, then do we really need an exemption at all?
No, because as long as we're following the procedures, I guess there would be no need for an exemption.
I'm done.
I'll make those changes and come back to the board, or so you can get a clean copy of it.
Probably a good idea.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else on this? Okay.
Speaking of which,
Proposed sale of the dump truck with photos.
Well, by the current policy, it's October, so we're bringing you a list of things to be sold, and right now, the truck is one of them. And I think, did somebody ask earlier about getting, on a quote on, Bob asked about a quote on something. My notes.
I did.
You know, here we have to determine what the value is, and I had made an email back to Karen and Jeff and said, well, call the dealership for one and try to get some sense of what a retail value would be, not just trade-in. So I'm assuming that's what they did here, but, because I was not in the office, but, so you got before you the 2007 International 7400. And there was some stuff on what the cost of the repairs would be, $9,300 basically, to fix something that's not economically feasible to fix. So the recommendation from Jeff was use a 10 to 20,000 K number from the initial conversation, and we had to determine a value of what the board, if you have an opinion on it, what a reasonable price was to ask for this thing. Jeff, you're still on. Do you have anything to weigh in on this? That you did all the homework?
Yes, sir. I did get a hold of the people we bought the truck from. obviously he hasn't seen the truck in a long time. Talked to him based on years and just the nature of what the trucks do. He said it's most likely seen better years. He said if it was somewhere around 10 to 20,000, 20 being it really is in good shape, 10 possibly being where it's at, and it needs 10 of work. You're kind of, almost, it's not worth anything. I know I had a buddy in Greenwich, I sent him the pictures and the list of what it needed. He was like, I'll give you like $1,000. I know Evan had a guy come and he was like, I don't even want it. So I think we're kind of, I think the truck's, it's been worked. It's an old truck. You plow and you have that much wear and tear on a truck over that many years. Things, no matter how well you maintain it, they take a beating.
Well, to put this thing in service, it's gonna cost us $9,300 to fix everything that Earls and Todd Boutwell had identified on this stuff. So that's our sticking point right now is we paid $9,300 to fix a 2007. If you look at those photos, $9,300 isn't gonna fix all the rust on it.
I was just looking at that, and is $9,300 the best case scenario for repairs?
No, it says,
No, the gentleman at where we bought it from, he said that's probably tip of the iceberg.
That's what I mean.
Evan already said it needs new tires. So you can get into this and you can kind of start to put Band-Aids on it here and there. But at what point are we, being nickel and dime to, it's costing us more to keep it on the road than it's being productive.
Well, perhaps you didn't understand my question. I said is $9,300 the best case scenario? I mean, it won't get any, it couldn't possibly be better than that. It wouldn't be less money than that. It would probably be more, is what I'm trying to ask.
To sell it?
No, to fix it.
Oh yeah, no, that's best case scenario. That's 9,300, and then that's not even including it needs all new tires.
So we're putting $10,000 in a truck that's probably not even worth that. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm done asking questions.
I mean, I like to put this thing out for sale, go through our current policy, and try to sell this thing, and, I don't know, I don't have a number right now. I have to work with Jeff. If you guys, are authorized us to sell it, we're gonna get whatever, the best deal we can for it, but, I gotta start having a starting price for it, what to ask for.
I personally don't think I'm qualified to give you a number.
Well, I'm not really either. So, I don't know.
The gentleman at the dealer said if we brought it to him, he could look at it, but we can't get it there.
If we authorize you to sell this, I'm gonna say to just use your best judgment and get what you can.
He's got a plow and stuff with it. So, I mean, I could, $5,000.
I'll leave that up to your discretion, in my opinion. I mean, I'm prepared to make a motion to that effect.
Is this worth anything as scrap metal?
Well, that's what,
Guys,
You must be talking
can
to
we
us.
just slow down a little bit here?
hey, Bob,
Okay, Bob.
When we put this out, it's to the highest bidder. We don't set a price on it.
well, sometimes the highest
can
bidder says
refuse-
$500.
Well, you have the
We
right
can
to
refuse that
accept or
much.
reject
You
any
have the right
bids.
to refuse.
I know, but I think,
Mike,
I know, I found,
Mike.
yeah, I'm listening, Bob.
we have the right to refuse any and all bids.
Exactly.
No, I get
That's
it.
the way we've always done it.
But I guess we have to determine what will we accept price. Because,
No, you don't.
No, we
well,
don't.
if the high bidder says 500, we don't have to accept it. But,
Isn't your starting bid basically your lowest bid?
Yeah, you say $5,000 or best
What
offer.
you would start out is what the lowest amount you would accept. It's like buying a record player on eBay.
And it doesn't work that way, I don't know who I'm speaking to, but it doesn't work.
Can't you set a reserve?
No,
Yeah, the municipal bid, you could put a reserve on there, so if it doesn't reach your reserve price, then you don't have to sell it, or it won't get sold.
you don't, as Bob said, you don't have to accept any bid. You have the
Right,
right
it's simple.
to accept or reject. That's what Bob said.
Don't dispute that, not questioning it. I'm saying, what price will we accept on this truck? Because if it goes,
Wait to see what the bids come in at.
Yeah,
Wait to see what they bid.
Right.
Whoever's interested in it.
For me, it would be
Listen-
essentially whatever it would be worth as scrap metal, plus $1.
okay, you guys are totally ignoring what the dealership told you. They said it could be anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000. So I would say
If it's
10,000.
10,000 and you need 10,000 to work, it's worth zero.
Let me ask,
No,
let me ask a question.
That's-
This is a truck that's
Or
used for
scrap.
plowing? Used for plowing?
it was one of our plow trucks, yeah.
It's
not
one,
being
it's
used right
on,
now.
it's on one of the plow routes?
It's unusable at the moment, if I
It's not
understand
even,
correctly.
it's undrivable.
Is it on the plow route? The answer is no. We don't use it
No.
regularly plowing?
No, sir.
It's
Okay, all righty, I got it.
Did, up until we got red tape.
Okay, what's your pleasure, folks?
Well, I keep bringing this up, I'm curious, is it worth anything as scrap metal?
if we get the weight of it, we can find out what the current prices are, and we can do it that way. Yeah, so,
$5 a ton.
what is it?
It was $175 a ton last week.
That thing's gotta be 6 ton?
Yeah, it's more than that. but-
Well, probably 12,
12?
12, 15.
That's my bottom line.
Yeah. 'Cause it's- you're
So
talking-
what do we have to lose by saying we are accepting bids for this piece of equipment? What do we have to lose? And if it ends up as scrap, nothing, then it ends up as scrap.
We have nothing to lose, except that I don't wanna have another discussion about this if it's not necessary.
I agree with you, Joe.
And if we can establish that, if Mike can get anything more than what it's worth as scrap metal, he should take it. Then we don't have to have another discussion. We can just report out.
I won't vote for that.
But you're not, God, I don't know how to phrase it. Usually when you sell something, you know what you're going to, your bottom line is you're gonna accept.
You
But I
know,
just-
but you don't have to advertise that.
Of course.
I know that. What I'm asking for you guys for is, what would you accept?
We don't know.
Oh my
Because
God,
we
you
don't-
know!
We
Jim, you
don't
gotta
know, we
know!
don't know what the bids are,
Oh
Michael.
my God! It doesn't matter. Somebody could say 500 or 1,000, and you say, I don't want 1,000.
Okay,
2,500.
Is he going, are you gonna do it on missy bids? Because then you can set a reserve, and that's why you would need to know
Well,
this, right?
it says we have to put it in the paper too, so I have to put it there too.
what do you mean in reserve?
On municipal bids, you can put a reserve on.
Oh,
that
okay,
The
okay.
bid's gotta start here.
Okay.
It's gotta get to this point,
Yeah.
or we're not selling it.
But
If
if I
you
put it in the
if you
paper,
advertise
then
it
it goes to
online,
scrap.
like we did within trucks, other
It's a
trucks.
starting bid.
Yeah, but the problem is the other trucks that we sold, we didn't follow our own policy.
Okay, well,
So there's the crux of it right there is.
Okay.
If we have to put it in the papers, but, then we have, the policy says that, so we gotta do.
if you're gonna. then
How's it
like-
going, Mary Lee?
I agree with Bob that you don't have to have a number
$1.
down because it's accept or reject any bids, so.
I remember the time we were told
Yeah, besides this
we
thing
could
until next
only
summer.
get so much money for the weed harvesters. And that came from the highway department. And we got about 5 times that amount for it, for each one of them. So I'd be a little careful as to being so low that there might be people that might be interested in it.
I'm not asking for low, I'm just asking for what, if it reaches this amount, it's gone.
You get the bids, and just let us know. I mean, And if it's reasonable,
Thank you, Jim.
if it's reasonable, fine. But that doesn't
Well,
mean we're
well,
buying
what's
another
reasonable?
truck, Heath. That doesn't
Well,
mean
tell
we're
you
buying
when we
another
And I think
truck.
that's the question, what's reasonable? I mean, somebody actually can't drive it. And maybe to Polteny, they might be able to drive it.
That's up to the bidder, guys.
Yeah, sure, it's up to the
Well,
bidder.
you have to have a starting bid, I mean.
No,
is that-
no,
is-
you
is starting
don't.
bid? No, you don't have, zeros the starting bid?
You don't have to have a starting bid. It's to the highest bidder.
That is
It's what
correct.
we've always done in the past.
And I think Mike said, what if it's
No.
$500?
That's fine. That's that bidder. Maybe somebody will offer you 750, the next bidder.
No, I'm talking about the
You
highest
don't
bidder.
have to.
Why don't you advertise it for bid and let the board know if we want to accept the bid? It's as simple as that.
Okay.
I'm in line with Joe, scrap value, around 2,500.
I'll go along
I
with
don't know
that.
why you guys think that's at a price. It's never been done that way.
Well, no, I'm not saying publish that, I'm just, Mike needs a yardstick
Yeah.
to work with.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not,
all.
I'm not saying put it in the paper that we're gonna accept this.
You
Well, we know, we have
just
to have a
published
point.
it already. I, see what you get for bids. Put it out
All
for
right,
bids, see what you get.
I'm sorry, folks, but I am, if we can, if, we'll put it out for bid and get back to you, because this has
Yeah.
got my head like ready to explode.
You're not alone.
Thank you, Tim.
If someone offers you 10 grand, sell it.
And then, and here's a $9,300 bill to fix it too.
No, don't tell them that part. The buyer beware.
That's their problem. That's their problem, Mike.
Yeah, I know, but you're assuming that everybody's an idiot, and I'm not gonna assume that.
You have to you have to let people know. I mean, we have a list.
Here's your
of-
gavel.
Yeah.
It's issued.
All right. I understand what you want.
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Oh, my God, guys. Yeah.
Acceptance of a small grant, small scale grant, South Street pedestrian, accessibility and safety. Is this controversial?
Depends. So what you didn't find out, and I didn't know because so I couldn't tell you, is when they awarded the large scale bike and ped for 1.2 million or 1.5 and our,
Yep.
yeah, they also awarded us the small scale bike and ped grant for the section from the university to Main Street because we had to, the recommendation was to get the cost down for the large scale because they didn't approve it the year prior because it was a little bit higher than their threshold. So we applied for 2 grants. We applied for the large scale, which we were awarded. We applied for the small scale for that section from the university to Main Street, and we were also awarded that. And it's 75,000 is our share of it. It's a $150,000 project. So the board has to decide, do you want to accept that small scale bike and ped grant, which is a 50% match, versus the normal 20% match.
So it'd be 75,000?
But we don't have to have all the Bacon-Davis rules and, it's state rules, it's not the federal rules, so in the long run, it always costs less, like the Parsons Hills project did. But we still need to front $75,000.
Where do we get it?
The side,
Pardon?
between the highway carryover sidewalk and the sidewalk,
Okay,
I got, I'm drawing a brain cramp, it's reserves.
all right.
There's 2 different places with money in it, but it still comes back to what I had put in, God, I'm gonna digress on this one. On the ARPA recommendations is we're still gonna be short money of sidewalks between all these projects, so I had recommended using ARPA in there for covering some of that, so. But, again, the other thing that we haven't addressed is, and again, another conversation, but, is upping the amount we put into the sidewalks each year. From 45,000 to a different number, because once we build all these sidewalks, we're gonna have to maintain all these sidewalks. And so, it's something that, during this budget cycle, I'm gonna be bringing forward to the board. But for now, on the agenda was accepting of the small scale bike and ped grant for South Street.
Is there a motion?
move that we accept the small-scale bike and ped program grant and authorize the town manager to sign on behalf of the board.
I'll second that.
And a second. Any discussion?
Just one quick question. This couldn't be rolled into the big project when it's time for construction, right? Or would it be a standalone entity?
It's a standalone entity.
Okay.
Now, somebody might bid on both of them, and you know, they might benefit us in the long run, but we don't know that until it's two separate bids.
Understood.
Okay. No further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. Manager's report, Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But these gentlemen have been sitting patiently here because there's something that was left off the agenda. And because it's a public comments period, I want to at least bring it to your attention that today is the last day for the public comments period for the local hazard mitigation plan. I will report that I have not received any public comments besides the one that Jim Thomas had provided on the invasive species, plant species. And I did send that to Stephanie Burke today at Rutland Regional Planning Commission. And Jim's on, if, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind letting him address the board on that public comment for invasive species that would be included in the local hazard mitigation plan.
That would come under your manager's report, right?
I would have put it in there.
Okay, Jim?
Can you hear me?
Yes, even though you're a couple miles away.
More than a couple. That actually was done by one of the professors of biology at Northern University, who's doing a tick study and looked in the town land and said that we have jumping worms back there as well, and commented that I knew we had invasive honeysuckle and barberry back there in the town property, but he was saying that he wanted to do a tick study for a couple years, and based on that, he might come back with some mitigation for decreasing the tick habitat, which I guess the barberry is good for. So I asked him to come up with a statement, and that is his statement. It's not my work, but that's where it came from.
Any questions for Jim? Joe?
Which town lands are you talking about, Jim?
The 30 acres in back of my house.
Okay,
There's 3 10-acre parcels that go from New Road parallel in between Pencil Mill and Crystal Heights. One of those parcels actually goes out to Pencil Mill.
gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, it's a short read if you want me to read it, if the board wants to know what it says.
Sure, go ahead.
A number of invasive species threaten the overall health of Castleton Forest. These include pests of forest trees such as emerald ash borer, as well as understory plants such as Japanese honeysuckle, Japanese barberry, and common buckthorn. These plants threaten forest health by reducing biodiversity and altering species composition, and in the long term may reduce the amount of forest cover in Castleton. Invasive understory plants inhibit the natural regeneration of our forest, by outcompeting seedlings of native forest trees. In addition, many invasive understory plants facilitate the spread of the black-legged tick, the vector of Lyme disease, by providing suitable habitat. There are a number of invasive earthworm species in Castleton Forest, most notably Asian jumping worms. These earthworms rapidly alter soil structure, impede the growth of native tree species, and further facilitate the spread of invasive plant species. Management of invasive species is a critical component of long-term forest management in Castleton, and in turn, flood mitigation.
Thank you.
End.
Any questions on this topic? Any questions for Jim or for Mike?
who goes around and checks these? I have a lot of forest. How do I know if I've got that stuff or not?
Well, it's a fair question, Mary Lee. And Timoth put this into action. So as a working group, we still haven't looked at that to determine how to implement all this stuff. It's the local hazard mitigation plan, and I sent this to Stephanie Burke today, would incorporate the statement, but how to implement it yet hasn't been resolved. It's identifying it, and then we're gonna come up with some mitigation strategies. And it sounds like this individual from Northern University is a good source of information on how to maybe do that kind of stuff, but and UVM. So don't really have an answer for it, but it'd be part of this local hazard mitigation plan that we have to dive more into and how to implement mitigation strategies.
But you're interested in knowing whether you have these problems in your forest.
Right.
That would be something that, go ahead, Jim.
It's interesting, the honeysuckle, if you cut the honeysuckle and it's got a hollow stem, it's the invasive. The native honeysuckle has a solid stem. The barberry, he identified, I pulled one, and the common buckthorn one I didn't realize was invasive, and took out one that was actually on my property, not the town.
But I think there's a way that if a citizen had a complaint or had a question, that we'll have to find out who we divert them to or channel them to get the assistance that you'd be asking for.
The ag extension would be the local authority on that as well.
Yeah, someone through UVM, I know, did a bunch on Egan's farm and the old Griffin Orchard, because they had some of that there.
So that's something we have to publish in our
Yeah.
our hazard mitigation, local hazard mitigation plan, is we could reference that resource.
I'm like between Egan and the, and,
The ticks are all on your property.
yeah, those jumping worms.
Anything else on this?
Well, the only thing is, if you remember from the meeting that we had next door, Stephanie Burke presented over there, is we're at the end of the public's comments period, and does the select board have any comments? Because there was a concern, I think Mr. Mark brought it up, about the hiring of additional people in the highway department and the economic development coordinator. And I'm not sure if Stephanie answered your questions at that point, enough to satisfy your comments at this meeting, or maybe.
Is that still in the plan?
Yeah, and I don't know how.
Hiring 2 extra people is still in the plan?
It's not really a plan.
It's a recommendation.
It was a working group that noted something, but like Stephanie said, it doesn't mean that you're bound to do something about it.
If you leave it in there, if it stays in there, you're intending that that's what you're going to do.
I might argue with you on that one, but you're still in the driver's seat. It's not like it's saying this is what's going to happen. It was identified as this is a mitigation strategy.
Does it still propose that we hire an additional person in the highway department and an economic development director? Does it or doesn't it?
It's not, you're not bound by it.
Of course you are. You're going right down that road. It's not any different. It's not any different than starting to move to retain ownership of the village school. We're going down the same road.
I guess
So
I have nothing to say.
I have a problem with those 2 items being in the local mitigation plan. Only my own personal opinion, but I have a problem with that. And I'd like to say again what I've said on numerous occasions. The property tax burden in Castleton is the 2nd highest of any town in Rutland County. And the town that has a higher property tax burden is trying to take steps to reduce it. That's it.
And I will say that we're the second largest municipality in the Rotten County.
Okay.
Some would hope that there's economy in size.
Okay, Joe.
So I don't always agree with our select board chair, but on this one I do. I think I voiced my concerns that, at that meeting, and at the time, I think I also added that it was somewhat easier for me to justify the connection between hazard mitigation and highway department staffing than it is for me to find the link between economic development and hazard mitigation.
Sure.
And I guess one of the things that concerns me about this is that if I were a citizen, or if I were a department head, I wouldn't have thought that the development of a hazard mitigation plan was an opportunity to present my wish list of staff positions.
Exactly.
Not sure if that's what it really was, besides how do you mitigate something? And this was when it came down to the mitigation strategy and said, well, either we need more time in a day or we need more people to effectively mitigate whatever it was. And I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to misspeak where it was located in that. If anybody remembers that, please share it, but.
Carrie left, so,
What's that?
Carrie left,
Yeah.
so.
Where?
But it was somewhere in there of where there was a weakness, and how do you overcome the weakness? What's the mitigation strategy for that? And the working group, again, it was multiple people. There wasn't one person making the decision. Said, well, how do you do it if you don't have the adequate staffing, or you don't have adequate equipment or time?
And government has always been known to always need more people and more equipment. Some of it is justified, but some of it is, as I think Joe used the term correctly, a wish list, to simply add individuals. And Joe and I, sometimes, as he said, we don't agree, but on this one we do.
Yeah, and I would come down more strongly on the side of eliminating the economic development position than the highway department position. Because I can't see the connection and no one has explained that to me.
And again, like Mike said, there was strategies we were going over, and there was a template that come from the state that we were filling in the blanks. And the strategies come over, and that economic person was brought into the picture. And it wasn't that we brought it in, it was something from the strategies that this template set forward. And that's when we added, well, maybe the town needs to consider adding one of these personnel. And that's where
It came from the Committee for Economic Development and Revitalization in their recommendation to the board.
Well, they were on the board. They weren't in this working
They
group.
weren't in that
But their recommendation is what I said.
No, I can't defend it right now because I'm not looking at what category it fell into to say how it corresponds to local hazard mitigation and whatever that area was, but I'm not here to argue for or against
No,
it. I'm just saying
I know.
this is what the working group had provided and as part of the mitigation
Must
strategy.
be I missed that meeting.
You only went to one, Jim.
I won't. Okay. Okay. Anything else, Mike?
No, I think that, is there anything that the board, I can take back to Stephanie Burke, since they're looking for, we don't have any public comments besides the one that Mr. Thomas had provided, so is there anything that the select board wants me to take back to Stephanie in regards to this plan?
As far as I'm concerned, those two items could come out of there as part of local hazard mitigation. Those two items should come out of there.
I don't
That's just my
don't
own
have it in front of me, so I
personal
can't
opinion.
argue it, of what our strategy would be for either one of those, of whatever the hazard was versus the mitigation measures. Because maybe if you knew that right now, you could say,
I don't see
I don't
what
think it would
anything
take
to
a
do
highway
with
person,
hazard.
we could do something different.
I don't see where anything has to do with anything with a hazard.
Well, it has to do with, we were talking about flooding, natural disasters, which
Yes.
means clearing roads,
Yes. Mean
trees.
mean we don't have enough people in the highway department now? Is that what you're
Do you
saying?
really want to get in that argument right now, Mr.
No,
Chairman?
I don't. Drop it.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that one.
No, you're good, Jeff. You don't chime in.
I don't think we can have a meaningful conversation specific to this item without those documents in front of us.
Without what, Dick?
Without the plan in front of us, so I don't think we can really
Yep.
have a meaningful conversation on this issue.
Well, I was holding the plan when I raised my concerns.
Sure
I know
you
you
were.
did, and
And I didn't, neither the plan made clear to me how we needed an economic development person, nor did Stephanie provide a sufficient answer to that.
what she did say in that meeting, that was just the past select board meeting, was that the plan wasn't binding, but I can understand your concern on that.
Thanks, Dick.
So I think we need to take a quick shot at that. Maybe at the next select board meeting, we can all dust our plans off and have a
Well, the question is,
short
is there,
conversation.
does the process timeline allow us to wait?
It's November, again, I don't have it in front of me, it wasn't on the agenda, so I didn't even bring anything over, but, it's November, there's another date in November that, to move this forward to, for consideration, it's not for adoption, at that point, it's for consideration to FEMA. And I don't have that date in front of me. And Jim, I'm not,
Mike,
yeah, I'll say, Jim, maybe do you have something?
the dates, the whole point of the process, I thought, was to get a FEMA endorsed plan so that if we have a disaster, that the town's reimbursement goes from 7% to 17%. The dates were originally, I think, proposed by Stephanie as a method to get from start to finish. I don't think the date is absolutely critical. The only thing that would be critical is if we had another disaster in the interim without an approved plan in place, it would reduce the town's reimbursement from FEMA.
I don't disagree with most of what you said.
I don't have a strong position on the economic, I think you're right. It's a lot easier to throw road crew in for hazard mitigation because a lot of what we do is tree removal, culvert unsticking, and things like that, which require town crew. The economic development person, I think, is easily deleted.
I would certainly not argue with that comment. If I was making that statement to the select board, I would say the economic development part was probably part of a strategy on one of those hazards, and it was the only thing that was, feasible or something at the time. I don't think, I agree with Mr. Mark that there's probably not a lot of merit and correlation to hazard mitigation and an economic development coordinator. And that's what I'm looking for right now, but I don't think I can control F on my phone. So, yeah, I would not disagree with what's been said so far, besides what Mr. Leamy said. I disagree with everything he says.
You disagree with me, Mike?
I'm joking, Jim. I gotta have some
Okay.
lightheartedness here.
I don't want to dig into the weeds, but where did the proposal to add a person in the highway department come from?
From the working group based on,
No, where did it actually come from? Who proposed it?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Are you taking the fifth?
No, I'm not
I don't
taking it.
remember either, Jim, and I don't believe it's in the minutes. We didn't keep track of who made what proposal.
Had to come from somewhere.
Well, it's probably,
But that's like asking the select board, who puts forth the current road policy? You probably don't know.
no, anyway, that's, I could look through this thing and find it. I'm online looking at the draft. I'm not disagreeing with what Mr. Mark said about the economic development, what I heard Stephanie say, and what I can't even recall what hazard it's under right now.
If you are considering, or we are considering hiring an additional person,
We're not considering it.
yes, you are. If we are considering hiring an additional person, where is the justification for that?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yes, it is. Then somebody should have an answer.
I don't think that has been adequately made.
Go ahead, Joe.
I think we're
Yes,
working on a dead horse here.
you are.
I-
We've kicked it around a lot.
I think Mike asked us if there was any input that we wanted him to submit. I guess I would say that he should let Stephanie know that some of the members of the board have concerns about the stipulation of the addition of those two positions, particularly perhaps the economic development one. And that's
That's a fair statement.
true.
That's a
right?
fair statement.
Some of the members.
Anything else on this? Mike, do you have any other exciting things?
You know I do, Jim. You know I do. One of the things that the board will have to consider shortly is our treasurer is retiring, and before the next election, so the board can approve an interim treasurer to the next election. So we're talking somewhere around January 3rd to March. But why I'm saying this is we're gonna have to post out there across the paper, media, social media, and our town website that we're looking,
Sure.
that we're having a vacancy, and then those that are gonna seek public election have to meet all of those deadlines for their petitions and
Yeah.
all that. So we wanna make sure that's out there, widely disseminated. You have to be a member or a voter, legal voter in Castleton, and we'll include all that stuff in there so that somebody that lives in West Rutland doesn't say, oh, I could do that job, and then wanna apply. But we are gonna, I'll be coming back to you. I talked to a person today, trying to be cryptic on purpose, to submit a letter to be the interim, for seek, I'm not saying who right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want their letter in my
hope you
hand, so
weren't
I know
going to say
that
who.
before I
thought
put
you
their
said
name out
something.
there. But we all know them.
The best kept secret.
Yeah, I just don't want to put it out there and then
That's
say,
okay.
no, I don't really mean that. We have a mediation date coming up on the 31st.
30th.
30th, yeah. I wrote that date. For the Sand Hill project. We all know Bo's departure's the 29th of October. We're gonna have a get-together, and the Mary Drogi and the Rec Commission, they're all planning something for Bo.
Oh, okay.
So, farewell. What's that?
Where will that be held?
They want, their venue was gonna be the village school, but no dates nothing's been put together yet, but once I have it all, I'll let everyone know. Recreation director interviews, were conducted. I was part of the first one, but not the second ones. I was away. So I have to meet with Bo and Martha to go over those interviews. Two personnel were inventoried. They were inventoried, and they're all there. They were interviewed for the accountant vacancy that's going to be coming up in January. And there's only two at this point. The new Tahoe is here, and it's not labeled or it's lettered yet, but it's here. It's in the parking lot. I still need to work with the negotiation team for the ASME collective bargaining agreement and get something to the ASME group, because we haven't done that yet. The roll-off truck is back in service. We currently don't have anybody with a CDL that's works for the transfer station. So Jim Bruno is still gonna be driving for us like he has before, while we're still working towards CDLs for the roustabout. The new Holland tractor, the dealer rep was there and looked at it, maintenance folks, because it was having problems. The arm wouldn't, the over the rail part wouldn't, it got set on the, went down to the ground and we couldn't get it to, Evan couldn't get it to lift. Anyway, they came and looked at it, and there's a crack in part of the support of that, and it's not something that we can take care of. And so now there's, I saw an estimate to get that fixed is gonna be like $3,900 or something like that. But it's not before you yet anyway. But that thing needs more money to keep it on the road. And barring your questions, that's what I have.
Any questions from Mike?
Yeah, let's circle back to the treasurer's retiring. We do have an assistant treasurer, right?
Correct.
Now, my question is, the assistant treasurer is not appointed by the select board, it's appointed by the treasurer, is that correct?
Correct.
So will that appointment be valid after the treasurer retires or resigns?
That's why the select board can make that appointment until there's an election, because it,
Okay. All right, that was my concern, is all of a sudden we would be without a treasurer at all.
Other questions? Anything else, Dick, for Mike?
That's all I got.
Joe?
I'm set.
Mary Lee?
I'm sleeping.
Okay. Okay, Mike.
Hungry.
Thank you.
It's too late. Forget it.
Purchase orders for approval.
I didn't see any purchase orders. Do we have any, Mike?
Yeah, right here. Just a second. You got Aldrich and Elliott. I think we did this,
We
didn't
did
we?
that. We did that during the sewer commissioners meeting.
Yeah, that's what I
We authorized the
thought.
town
We're all
manager
set
to
on
sign
this. Municipal Assistance Bureau,
that.
didn't we authorize Mike to do
I
that?
signed it, I have mine here.
Yeah,
We're all
good.
set on that
I'll give
then.
it to Karen tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Going to the warrants.
I make a motion, we approve warrant number 1006 for $3,821.33. Warrant 1012 for $35,406.32. Warrant 1019 for $6,554.04. Warrant 1023 for $227,359.45. Warrant 1012P for $17,596.49, and warrant 1019P for $18,182.31.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, questions on anything in the warrants? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion passes.
I would move that we approve warrant number 1013P for $641.32, and warrant number 1020P for $641.32.
I'll second.
And a second. Any questions on these? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 I recuse myself.
Dick recuses himself.
These are the two I just passed along.
Did you do this one, Dick?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh, you got half of them?
Not half, but.
It's a start. Well, you didn't sign this one, Jeff.
Oh, missed one? Okay.
Last one, Mike.
Is this yours or mine, Dick? It was right
You can
here.
have it.
Huh?
I think it was a communal stack. You can have it.
Thanks.
I think I have it right here anyways. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got the same stack right here.
Can someone remind me of the details of Joe Bruno's memorial?
One to floor at the Legion Sunday.
Please pass along my condolences. I will be in Virginia that day.
I heard where you're gonna be. Never mind.
I might even be in North Carolina that day.
Mike, have there been changes made to this as opposed to what was in our packet?
There was, and the changes were actuals, so I asked Melanie to provide the actuals for the green section.
Okay.
So the police car, you'll see that where the numbers change between the two, there's three of them, 3 or 4. Police car, what we spent on audiovisual.
Gotcha, thank you.
8, I don't know how many.
We need 8. We need 8.
Okay, there's 8.
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, the interest value on number changed too, if I.
Yeah, the interest, that was through 30 September. So that went up to $28,442.86.
Are there any select board comments or concerns?
Yes.
Yes, Mary
Where's the
Lee?
remote?
I would like to suggest or request, or whatever you want to call it, that we get the budget earlier this year than we did last year.
Just so you're aware, Melanie's working on that for me to get the worksheets out, so I have a date set for, not this week, next week, so you get it by the first meeting in November, the draft.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mary Lee?
No.
Dick?
I'm good.
Joe?
Just a reminder that I was hoping that we would be making a decision about the plaque from the South Street School.
So would I.
So could you put that on our agenda
Okay.
soon?
Anything else, Joe?
No.
Bob?
Are we gonna have any executive sessions?
Are we gonna have any executive sessions?
I don't know. Mike, we have an executive session?
I could have one on personnel. It's really short.
It's up to you. You want one?
Just to keep you informed of what's going on, so you're not blindsided.
Okay.
Yes, we're gonna have a short one on personnel, Bob.
Perfect. I got a question that shouldn't be asked in public.
Okay. Any other select board comments or concerns? Brief recap? Do we want to recap?
I think we've beat everything to death already.
I think you're right. Okay. Okay, is there a motion for, as someone said, a short executive session on personnel?
So moved.
Select board and the town manager.
So moved at 9:24.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right.